all of the ocean is inspiring, beautiful, and powerful. From strange waves to deadly sea smoke, here are 10 examples of dangerous ocean phenomena. Number 10. Cross sea. It's not uncommon to see strange things in nature. So if you happen to travel to the Isles of Ré in France, you may be in for quite a surprise when you're staring out at the ocean and you find yourself looking at square-shaped waves. With pristine beaches and weather that draws tourists from all over the world, the Isles of Ré has a strange natural wonder. Miles under the ocean, two different seas meet off the coast and come together in a phenomenon known as a cross sea. Although the pattern looks beautiful from afar, with two wave systems crossing at slanting angles to form square-shaped patterns, the waves are actually very dangerous. Not only is this phenomenon able to produce very tall waves, many ships and swimmers have been caught in the swirling systems and gotten into trouble because of it. Because cross seas can occur in coastal places all around the globe, they are safe to look at from a distance. But if you do see one, my advice is to stay out of the water. Number 9. Rip currents. Everyone likes to take a dip in the hot summer months, but the fact is that more than 100 beachgoers every year drown in the United States alone. This is due to a phenomenon known as a rip current. Although most people believe that rip currents pull swimmers underwater, they are actually strong narrow currents that flow away from the beach, making them more comparable to rivers. When the current pulls a swimmer underwater, the swimmer starts to panic because they feel like they're being pulled under. However, researchers say that there's actually no currents in the ocean that pull you under. Even scarier is that there are multiple types of rip currents and they form in different ways. Sometimes, when waves quickly change height and swells roll in, it can be a trigger. They can also occur at places where there's a break in the sandbar and water funnels in out to sea. When the water returns to the ocean, it follows the path of least resistance, which is typically through these channels. Rip currents also appear next to piers where beach lovers like to hang out. However these currents form, the key ingredient for rip currents is the presence of breaking waves. Weather, tide variations, beach shape, and how the waves break offshore are all factors that lead to the risk of rip currents. And don't think that only smaller or weaker swimmers can be at risk. Researchers say adults standing in waist-deep water would find it hard to stay in the same place when faced with a rip current. These currents are most hazardous around low tide when the water is already pulling away from the beach. So scientists suggest keeping your eye on the water so you can learn how to spot a rip current before you get caught in one. Rip currents can also look different depending on their circumstances. Rip currents that form above deep sandbar channels look like calm patches of water. Too calm. Also be on the lookout for areas that have a different color than the rest of the water, or places where there is a line of foam, seaweed, or junk that moves out to sea. These are all signs that a rip current may be lurking just below the surface. Number 8. Maelstrom. For over 2,000 years, a strange event has been happening off the coast of Norway. 4 times a day, multiple vortexes or vortices open up in the waters. Thought to be a byproduct of water flowing through 2 local fjords, which are slim sections of water that are formed by glaciers or wedged between cliffs. When the currents are at their most significant, long briny spirals materialize in the water in speeds that can reach almost 23 miles per hour. A whirlpool occurs when the direction of underwater currents is disrupted and conjures up a spiral of spinning water. Made popular in various fictional stories by Edgar Allan Poe, as well as Herman Melville's Moby Dick, maelstroms have become a popular subject in both fiction and illustrated myths. However, their danger is very real and not just to residents of Norway. In the year 2000, a group of documentary filmmakers died in a body of water called French Pass, located between 2 main islands in New Zealand, after being overwhelmed by strong currents off the west coast of Scotland. While exploring the dangers caused by whirlpools, they saw firsthand the dangers of this phenomenon after they tossed a dummy in a life jacket with a measuring device into the Corryvreckan whirlpool. The dummy was quickly sucked into the vortex, instantly illustrating how dangerous maelstroms are for humans and making it super clear that the ocean is not a game, and if it was, it's going to win every single time. Number 7. Sea smoke. When cold air meets warm air, a phenomenon known as sea smoke occurs. Essentially just fog above water, sea smoke is similar to the steam that appears when you take a super hot bath or like a boiling pot of water on your stove. As light wind sweeps cold air above the water, the air dips below the dew point. It is only able to hold so much moisture before condensing into fog. This occurrence is more likely to occur at night because the air is colder than during the day, although it usually appears more during the winter when air temperatures are lowest. The phenomena can happen over any northern latitude ocean. Ships are the most at risk to the hazards of sea smoke. When the fog becomes thick enough, it reduces visibility. The smoke can also freeze onto surfaces of an instrument, which can cause mechanical problems. The good news is that once the air and water temperatures warm up to the point that they're more similar to one another, sea smoke isn't as likely to occur, and the risk to the public vanishes just as quickly as it first appears. Number 6. Milky Sea. Long, lonely nights out on the ocean make sailors bring some strange stories back to shore. For hundreds of years, they have told tales about miles of pale, milky, glowing water. Usually dismissed as results of overactive imaginations, the phenomenon is based on reality. Even science fiction writer Jules Verne described the phenomenon in his novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sun, in which he talks about the submarine Nautilus coming across a glowing milk sea. In the modern era, though, stories of milky seas still continue. In 2005, a group of scientists led by the Naval Research Laboratory in Monterey, California, decided to look into these stories. Using satellite sensors, they collected data that confirmed a Milky Sea event that was reported in 1995 in the northwestern Indian Ocean. Those on the ship reported a whitish glow on the horizon while they were off the coast of Somalia. They described being surrounded by a sea of milky luminescent water that made it look like the ship was sailing over a field of snow or gliding over clouds. Researchers used satellites to look into the crew's claims and found that there is an area of low-level light in the ocean at the same date and time as the reports. By looking at water samples that were collected from the Western Arabian Sea in 1985 during a similar Milky Sea event, researchers found a type of bioluminescent bacteria in the water that is produced in the sakes of ships when waves crash ashore. This bioluminescent bacteria is thought to use light to attract fish because they thrive in the gut of the fish. This tiny bacteria has to gather together into a swell of up to 40 billion trillion. What the heck, that's a lot of swell. What causes the bacteria to gather in such ways is still unknown. This site does require a little more investigation to find out the science behind this phenomenon. Number 5. Dead Sea Sinkholes. The Dead Sea is a popular tourist destination with mineral-rich waters and mud that are said to have tons of health benefits. However, a strange phenomenon has been happening in the area in recent years. Large sinkholes have started to appear along the coast, swallowing roads, power lines, structures, and even taking parts of beaches. Entire areas have had protective fencing installed to stop the phenomenon and prevent harm to the public. The sinkholes were first noticed in the 70s, but they weren't as common then. In recent years, they've started to spread, with an estimation that there are over 5,500 sinkholes in the Dead Sea right now. Measuring 131 feet in diameter and going as deep as 82 feet, the sinkholes are dangerous in and of themselves. But occasionally, 2 or more sinkholes get together and combine into one huge mega sinkhole. Even more devastating is the fact that these sinkholes are formed by human activity. They are brought on by activities such as changing water drainage patterns and new water diversion systems. This is how researchers first believed the sinkholes started forming. Water diverted from the Jordan River, which feeds the Dead Sea, is being mined from the southern shores. There's been about an 80% drop in the amount of water provided to the Dead Sea, which has caused the surface to recede at a rate of 3 feet per year. Ugh, humans. In an effort to reverse the damage done by sinkholes, authorities have started to construct a canal that begins at the Red Sea and ends at the Dead Sea. This will bring salt water into the area and help water levels rise again. Whether this will stop the welling up of fresh water, which forms sinkholes, remains to be unseen. But visitors and residents alike would be better protected by these efforts to help keep sinkholes from forming more rapidly. Number 4. Acidic oceans. It's no secret that with climate changes on the rise, the Earth is going through some changes. One of the main problems is that oceans are growing more acidic, and scientists believe that this is happening faster than any other time in geological history. We think it's bad for humans, it's also bad news for the creatures that live in the ocean. This is especially problematic for corals, oysters, and other creatures that are sensitive to subtle changes of acidity in their water. Let me say that again, in their water. The reason for these devastating changes can be attributed to the extra carbon dioxide humans have caused by burning fossil fuels, cutting down forests, consuming a bunch of unnecessary meat, and other actions that affect the world. Eat some tofu. Although the oceans usually absorb and emit that extra CO2, the exchange was a slower one over billions of years. With humans in the mix, and our tendency to produce vast amounts of byproducts from the creation of fossil fuels, carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere and traps heat, warming the planet. A startling prediction from scientists is that 86% of the world's oceans will be more acidic and warmer than anything in modern history by the year 2050, which means our time is running out to undo some of the damage we've done to our atmosphere and the creatures, including ourselves, who inhabit it. Number 3. Waterspouts. Did you know tornadoes can occur over the ocean? Sometimes seen as ghostly spiral wind skimming across the surface of the ocean, these threatening funnel clouds are known as waterspouts. There are 2 categories of waterspouts according to scientists: fair weather and tornadic. They usually develop over warm tropical oceans and are more common in the Florida Keys more than any other place in the world. But they have also been seen over the waters of the Great Lakes. As the name says, tornadic waterspouts begin as tornadoes over land and then move over water. They can also form in severe thunderstorms over bodies of water and bring high winds, hail, and dangerous lightning to the area. Haven't you guys seen The Day After Tomorrow? In calmer weather, fair weather spouts develop. They usually form over open water at the surface and climb towards the sky. Waterspouts can range in size from just a few feet to several hundred feet wide. They can go through 5 stages, including their initial formation as a disk on the surface of water, known as a dark spot, where they transform into a spiral pattern on the surface. In the 3rd stage, they form into a spray ring before they become a visible funnel in the 4th stage. In the final stage, the waterspouts decays. Although beautiful, waterspouts can be dangerous and have been known to overturn boats, damage large ships, and even put lives at risk. You might think you want to get up close and personal with these fascinating forces of nature, but it's best to stay away. Number 2. King tides. King tides is a nickname given to dangerously high tides. These higher than normal tides typically occur during an old, new, or full moon, sometimes during specific seasons. When the Earth, Sun, and Moon are nearly in alignment, tidal ranges are larger, and the gravitational pull of the Moon on the Earth causes oceans to bulge a bit more than usual. Because they are such a common occurrence, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, posts seasonal flood bulletins to warn people of higher than normal tides. In 2019, as Hurricane Dorian made its way towards Florida's Atlantic coast, the king tides became more of a threat than usual. Because the moon was especially close to the Earth and pedigree at the time, as well as the fact that tides are higher in Florida at that time of year, made the threat of king tides even more dangerous. These types of tides add a couple of feet to the water height, making storms even scarier. Forecasters warned about life-threatening storm surges, potential floods, and surf and rip currents for several days. Luckily, the storm shifted and there was no serious damage or flooding. Still, the risk of king tides is high, so you should monitor local flood warnings and avoid being caught in this dangerous situation. Number 1. Flammable ice bubbles. Beneath Lake Abraham in Alberta, Canada, a potentially deadly phenomena lurks. Frozen bubbles give the ice surface the look of a bejeweled holiday postcard, but they are hiding an explosive secret. Trapped in the bubbles are tiny pockets of methane gas, which forms when dead leaves or animals fall into the water and sink to the bottom. The bacteria in the water digest organic matter, and when they release what they've eaten as a waste, the methane in the waste turns into a white blob when it comes into contact with frozen water. Although this is not an uncommon occurrence, with methane forming in thousands of lakes in the Arctic, there is a decreasing level of permafrost, which means more of this methane is being released into the ocean. Those sparkly gas bubbles are not as magical as they seem. Mother Nature is as beautiful as she is dangerous, as you can see by these powerful ocean phenomenons. Are these new to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below and be sure to subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.